live from the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, Mexico. It's qualifying for Breakout Racing League Formula One Round 16. I'm Rick James, bringing you uninterrupted coverage of this qualifying session with everyone's favorite Oz, Mitch, right beside me. Mitchell, welcome to Mexico.
Welcome to Mexico. It is a gorgeous sunny day in Mexico, and Peroni out on circuit, champion already, but we still got a long way to go. 2 rounds left, still positions to change up here in Tier 1.
Bringing up the points while we get this qualifying session underway. Mitch, you called it. Peroni, mathematically our champion, but with Hooplicious not being present for this penultimate race of the season. 29 markers back sits Chandler Seta in this Renault, who's on his outlap. He'll gain a load of points on Hoop if he can manage a decent finish today. 55 points behind Bruno Will. Sorry, Mitch, go ahead.
And also, don't forget Chandler looking for 5 in a row today. He's had 4 race wins in a row, so if he looks for 5, that's and the fastest lap, he could be 3 points behind Hoop for Brazil. So look out for that one tonight.
3 points within Hoop, and I'll tell you what, Mitch, that 5 in a row streak, something we have not seen since Peroni, week 7 in Montreal, when he got that 5th consecutive victory. And right then, oh goodness me, the 91 of Peroni really letting the tail hang out on his first lap, getting a bit crazy. But certainly no pressure now in these final 2 weeks of the season. Obviously the driver in him will demand his very best, but in that situation, he must be feeling relieved.
Oh yeah, I mean, we spoke about it those last, it was from about Italy, Singapore, when he just had bad results, and if USA went wrong for him, it could have continued on, but he got it done. Also, constructors done for Williams, so it's pretty much just trying to add to his win tally, basically.
Coming into this race, he's got himself 8 wins this season in Breakout Formula One Tier 1, and in the first 11 races, all podiums. For the first 11 competitions. He didn't see a podium again until last week in the United States, where he got that silver medal. You mentioned Chandler Seta getting his 4th consecutive win, and in his home Grand Prix, the American pilot, Hooplicious, with a disqualification in round 15, means he's only 29 markers ahead of Chandler Seta, who goes top of the tree with a 113.17. Seta has his eyes on the 2nd place prize.
Yes, he does. He has his eyes on it, and 26 points tonight. If he can do that, that gets him 3 points within Hoop for Brazil. So we'll have to wait and see if he can get that done here tonight. He's still got some challenges in Peroni and Jared tonight to contest with, and Jax as well. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see. And Mexico can be one of those tracks where anything can go down, and it's not easy to necessarily win.
Fern, 2nd on the tree right now, formerly ASR Fern, now PSR Fern, the Mexican pilot in his home Grand Prix with 3 straight DNFs. And as the anthem goes, Mexicanos al grito de guerra, he will meet the war cry in his home Grand Prix. As an Australian yourself, you must feel just, oh goodness, what in the world happened? The Red Bull of Edu, his Mexican compatriot, I'm sorry, not Edu, yes it is, ARS Edu, just gets into the Alfa, wrecks the Alfa Romeo. What in the world just went on? Or was that Mitch? I didn't see, but that looked to be. It looked to be Edu and Fern coming together.
I did not see that either, so I'm just questioning as much as you are.
Well, a lively start to this Mexican Grand Prix qualifying with just under 13 to play in the session. Peroni, the points leader and Season 6 champion, on another outlap, and the work's been cut out for him. A shorter field as we're used to here, Mitch, and for some drivers that are mired back in the points, that means a good opportunity to gain places in the standings.
Yeah, there's a few drivers here that can gain some points in the standings with fewer drivers. So look out for that, really, to get a good result here tonight, if it goes up at the front. And speaking of the front, Jared on top right now, 13.159, only just 0.019 over Chandler Sater. So even though we have fewer drivers, it could still be an exciting battle at the front.
TKX14 says no one showed, but that's okay. 11 drivers, 11 pilots are going to fight for 10 points paying places. Everyone has a shot, a legitimate chance to score points this week, Mitch. That's got to be a good boost for some of these drivers.
And hey, I say this to fans watching at home right now, don't go away, because sometimes you may look at the numbers, say 11, you say, oh, no, race not might be okay, but in the past, 11 drivers can make an interesting race out of nothing. You never know. So, especially at the front, with Jared, Chandler, and Perondi, we've seen these three battle out through the season, especially Chandler, Perondi. So, it could be an exciting fight at the front, either way.
Brazilian champion of Season 6, Perondi, now making his way through the baseball stadium complex. And an interesting, unique circuit, the podium right there in front of all these fans in the baseball stadium section. And when we say baseball stadium, this was a baseball stadium at some point before they put a ribbon of tarmac through it. Out of the final sweeping corner, Perondi does not put in a lap time. It must have been validated last time around. Well, less than 11 to play. He's got plenty of time to put in something.
Well, yeah, baseball stadium. It's such a unique part of the circuit. I always remember when Sergio Perez would come through that part, and the crowd just would roar. It's an absolute beautiful part of the track, and makes it so unique, especially where that podium is, especially as Peronis actually is on a lap and is actually gone fastest in the first sector.
Perondi fastest in that first sector, so we'll bring up the telemetry to see where he is. The lap data to see where he is in comparison to his rivals on the board. Right now going through this second sector, and it's a track that a lot of drivers favor, Mitch. TK14 asking, what league is this? Can't even get Tier 1 drivers to show up. Pitiful. Well, TK, we have a chance. Why don't you go ahead and try and make yourself up into Tier 1, and we can fill that field, and it will be less pitiful than you think. Moo gets in the stream as well. Glad to have you here, Moo. I hope you're enjoying the show a lot more than TK. And Mitch, a track that a lot of drivers do favor, but difficult to get a rhythm nonetheless.
Well, as Chandler's a 12.852 to the top, a lot of these drivers, actually Tier 1 drivers, are not a big fan of this circuit, which surprises me because I actually like this circuit. But it's one of these tracks where you either love or you hate it, mainly because of that second sector and how track limits, penalties can play a big factor, which is what we're going to see here tonight. For everyone to look out for is penalties could play a big factor in the end result.
We'll see what factors these penalties do play. Fans at home, if you're just joining us, I'm Rick James, bringing you uninterrupted coverage, joined by everyone's favorite Australian, Mitch. Yellow flags are out here in this first sector. Chandler Sater top with a 112.85, and then the Aussie teammate to the champion, Jax, sitting second with a 113.13. DRC Jared on his outlap right now, sitting third in this running order. I believe Jared is from the United States. No, Jared's Australian as well. So look at this. We have one American and two Aussies in the top three so far, Mitch.
Yeah, that's right. Jax and Jared second and third right now. Chandler on top, but Jared now about to start off his lap time as well. And Andrew doing pretty nicely in P4 as well.
Moo Milk asking, Mitch, you commentate Tier 2 as well, and I saw, Mitch, you were on the call for Tier 2. Yes. How is that, my friend?
Well, it's a very different conditions, Rick. It's dry here at the moment, but T2 very, 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 very wet conditions in T2. And shout out to Ritzy Raccoon, who won the T2 championship just a moment ago in T2. But yeah, wet conditions. Which wet conditions here? can happen, Rick. It can definitely happen. Real life, I don't think it's happened before, but in this game in F1 2020, it can definitely happen. Wet conditions here at Mexico, so keep an eye on that if that may happen here tonight.
Keeping an eye on the Brazilian champion, BRL Pirandi. Milnilk saying you didn't even comment on my start, but you did when I binned it. Mitchell. You got to take the good with the bad now. Let's see if we can get some good out of Pirandi. He's finishing his out lap. He'll start on a flyer. Mitch, take us around for a lap through Mexico.
And so thank God he's on the straight because my controller just went out, but he's on the straight right now. So here we go. Mexico, it is the long, very long straight. This is where you're going to have to make your moves. This is where you're going to get it done. But if you can get the run here for turn 1, 2, and 3, you can always set a move up coming into turn 4, and that's where you're going to see that a lot here tonight for passes if you can't get that DRS straight. But through turn 4 and then 5 and 6 it will be tough part of the circuit to get right because track limits to the left right there can hurt you, no doubt about it. Through 6, very nicely done by Pirandi, and now through 1, the difficult parts of this circuit where it can go absolutely wrong for you. 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 right there to the left is where track limits can hurt you hugely at this circuit, as Pirandi now purple middle sector. So let's see where Pirandi can go here through the baseball stadium, and let's see where Pirandi can go. The last few corners now, typical part of the circuit, 16 and 17. Pirandi holds on to it, and it will be only P5 for the champion of T1 this season.
Chandler Seta with a 1:12.85, still at the top of this right now. Fans at home, we apologize for the less than stellar quality during this stream. We'll try and get that fixed before the race gets underway. And Chandler leading Jared in second, Jackson third, the Mexican Edu still in the pits. There's Pirandi, who's been sent back down to 5th. PSR Fern 6th, Alan 7th. You see Saxman in one of the Alphas 8, and here comes Bruno Will about to put in a time.
Yeah, we'll see what Bruno Will can do here. Bruno Will, of course, we know he's got some good pace, Bruno Will, so he will be looking for a good result here tonight. But he has invalidated his lap time, which invalidations here in qualifying always a huge factor. And I think, actually, as a matter of fact, Bruno Will's starting a lap time right now. My apologies.
I thought he was on a flyer as well. He must have invalidated. Yep. And it seems like it's not the first time that a driver will have invalidated in this session. What makes it so difficult? Where are drivers going to see the most corner cuttings or lap invalidations?
Oh, absolutely the middle sector. That's where you're going to get your worst. But the fact is you can invalidate many other parts of the circuit, especially where Bruno Will is right now. Track limits is just such a pain. It's not more corner cutting, it's more the track limits you have to worry about here at this circuit, and especially here in qualifying, because obviously, as we know, you're right on the limit trying to get the best lap time in, but if you're just one wheel off the circuit, you're gone.
Watching this McLaren right here going through the baseball stadium one more time. The Brazilian Bruno Will, compatriot to the season champion, through the baseball section. You saw him go just incredibly wide, didn't you, Mitch? Out through this final corner. Bruno Will, still no time. He's invalidated again, Mitch. Such a difficult track for some of these drivers to get right.
Oh, it is. It's such a difficult track, but look out for Bruno Will. Could maybe just not want to complete a time and go on an alternate strategy. He could very well do that, which is what B-Dunk is doing at the moment. B-Dunk is on the medium tyres, Saxman on the medium tyres, so strategy is going to be another thing we'll talk about during the race with tyres. Everybody, we'll talk about that during the race. But yeah, Saxman, B-Dunk on the medium tyres, and everyone else on the softs as of right now.
Mumu says they really need to set a banker, then full send. Fans at home, we are going to, immediately after qualifying, end, then restart the stream to fix some of these quality issues. Again, we severely apologize for the poor quality, but we will get it sorted before lights out and the formation lap. Bruno Will back out on his flyer. The American B-Dunk also yet to put up a time, Mitch. B-Dunk has a great opportunity to move up through the table. He's only 11 points behind Bruno Will in 5th and 4th respectively.
Yeah, B-Dunk looking for an alternate route here tonight, trying to see what he can do. Maybe go medium soft here tonight. Looking to see what he could do, just put in a banker lap on these mediums and try to be in a good position for the race. And he's still not too bad at the moment, the Mercedes driver, and we'll see what he could possibly do.
B-Dunk scything through these corners, entering the baseball section with just under 2 minutes to play in the session. FinFan on his outlap right now, just one of 3 drivers yet to put in a time. And now Jared and Jax, the 2 Aussies, also on outlaps. Parandi, the champion, now on his outlap. So in this final 90 seconds, Mitch, it's going to be a shootout for pole.
Yes, it will be. It'll be an absolute shootout for Paul. B-Dunk actually validated his lap time, so he'll go again on those mediums. But yeah, Chandler, Jared, Jax as well, Edu, and Perondi. Wonder if Perondi's got a bit of time. He could maybe find Pierce Fern retires in peak 5 at the moment. But everyone now is starting to begin their lap times on the march towards a possible pole position.
Edu, Fern, Allen retiring from the session. Chandler Seta still up top with a 1:12.58. Bruno Will across the line. No time on the board. B-Dunk now looks like he starts his flyer. He's now through the lake section, the double apex, now through the S's and baseball. Here comes Chandler Seta, 1:12.85, now entering the stadium section to start his final flyer. Mitch, is there anybody who's got anything for Chandler at the top?
Well, Jared's just gone up 0.154, so Jared is on a purple flyer at the moment, but Chandler begins his lap time, so I feel like Jared might be He's got P2 in the bag no matter what. Chandler coming through the baseball stadium right now. He's got pole anyway, so he doesn't really need to push it. And he will get another pole to try to hope to go for 6 in a row.
Chandler Seta with a 1:12.85 will be on the pole for the penultimate race of the season. $1.15 remaining in the qualifying session, but drivers will come to end this qualifying round, and we will get this 16th round of Formula One racing underway here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. There is your pole sitter, Chandler Seta, in the Renault. He'll be starting at the front when the lights go out. There is your 11 starters for this race. Mitch, 4 drivers not required to be on those softs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the strategy plays out here at this circuit. Close between the top 3 at the front, but Chandler will want to get that good jump.
Fans at home, sit tight. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have this start of round 16 of 17 from the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with lights out. Bienvenidos una vez más al Autodromo Hermanos Rodríguez para ronda número 16 de 17 del Campeonato del Mundo Breakout Racing League Fórmula 1. Mitch, we are racing now. Well, we're on the formation lap, about to get racing. What's going to be the main focus for these drivers in Lights Out? Surely they have to focus beyond the dive into turn one.
Well, turn one is always the most exciting track for a battle into turn one. It's a long straight down, and you want to get that good jump and get ahead of the driver behind you to get ahead. So it's going to be interesting to see the run between these drivers. Who's going to get the good jump? If anything can go down, you don't want to get an early wing damage because that can hurt your strategy hugely here. So I'll be interested to see how things go down on lap one.
Chandler Seta starting on the pole. The Aussie Jared starting second. Jax in third. The Mexican Edu in his home Grand Prix. Another Mexican in his home Grand Prix, Fern. These two collided during the qualifying session, and you can see Fern with some wicked tire warm-ups. The champion, Pirandi, starting sixth. Alan in the seventh position in one of the two Papaya McLarens. The American #1 Fin fan in the eighth position. Then it's Saxman in the ninth spot. Bruno Will, another one of the Brazilians, in another Papaya McLaren 10th. And the American B-Dunk rounding out the field in 11th position, gridding up and getting ready for the start. Mitch, predictions for turn one.
It could be chaos. I mean, Jared and Chandler, they'll be going on into turn one. They don't want to bang wheels. They don't want to get a wing gone. So it'll be interesting to see how things go down as we wait for B-Dunk to line up in P11.
Getting ready for B-Dunk to get locked in position. Getting ready to start the penultimate round. There you see the pit strategy at the bottom of your screen. 2, 3, 4, 5 lights up. 5 lights down, and we're racing in Mexico. The Chandler Seta Renault gets out to an early lead. Jared sits in second, and Jax is in third. Side by side, 2x2, 7 rows deep, single file, top 4. You can see the leaves flying into the air. Drivers trying to stay off each other, and now they funnel down into the first turn. 2 Red Bulls nose to tail, and there's Pirandi. There's Pirandi, and Jax almost losing the car. Williams nose to tail out of the front S's section. Here comes Fern, who's side by side with Allen. Now through the first 3 corners, headed now toward the lake section. Mitch, what a start.
You got to give, as Pirandi now is being handed down by third and Alarm behind. Pirandi actually got a really good start. He could have gone into P3, but just had nowhere to go. So he has to stay behind in P5 at the moment. But Chandler, what a start from him, and he is gone. He'll try to bridge that gap of over a second, so he doesn't have to worry about the DRS behind.
There you see 0.8 of a second already, the gap between first and second going through this field. The Williams nose to tail, as are the Red Bulls sitting second and third. Edu, the Mexican, Jared, the Australian, following. Chandler Seta, the American, leading through the baseball stadium for the first time in this race. 36 laps will be our scheduled distance. Saxman bringing up the rear. Here comes Bruno Will for an attempt on B-Dunk for 9th.
Yeah, Bruno Will trying to move his way up on B-Dunk. B-Dunk, of course, going 2 positions. So B-Dunk looking to be the first of the medium runners because he'll be on an alternate strategy towards this end of this race.
0.4 of a second. Now the lead between Chandler Seta and Saxman. There you see Saxman bringing up the rear. That's not correct. Chandler Seta and Jared, who's being scored in the second position. Waiting for that scoring pylon to get sorted out, but it looks like the top 3 have all found space, but now Jax on the offensive trying to get that podium position early.
Yeah, it looks like to me at the moment it's going to be what can Jared do for Chandler, but Edu and Jax and Pirandi may have a titanium fight here at the moment. DRS, of course, not enabled just as yet, so it'll be interesting to see if Edu can hold on to this podium position here on lap 2 of 36.
Second lap now underway, and now that these drivers have all spread out single file, Mitch, they need to think about conservation. Drivers on the soft versus drivers on the medium. We can see there that the top 7 drivers rocking those soft red Pirellis, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th respectively on the mediums. what is this going to mean for drivers like Bruno Will, drivers like Saxman, who have a chance to gain so many points if they play their cards right? How are they going to maximize over faster drivers like Chandler and Jared?
Well, the factor for them right now is they need their medium this stint right now to go perfectly, because they will be on the softs most likely in the second stint. I mean, it depends on what the front runners do, because you could still do softs to hards here, but you're most likely going to see a two-stop from the front runners, as the medium runners right now are in a hell of a trade right now. FinFan, Bruno Will and Saxman not far behind, P8 all the way down to P11, so they're in a quite a fight here as Jared gets the first penalty of the night.
3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So Jared in the second position, only 1.8 seconds of a lead over his Red Bull teammate Fern. One of the Mexican pilots also getting a penalty 2 laps into this event. Chandler Seta well out of DRS range. Jared also out of DRS range from Edu, but from then on back, Mitch, your compatriot Jax now opening up the rear wing. He's got DRS open, and he's got another chance on Edu for third.
And if he doesn't do it here at turn 1, he'll look for it at turn 4 if he can get a good run here for 2 and 3. So we'll see if he can. He's got his teammate behind him, Perondi, watching with a keenful eye. But looks like Jax just doesn't have enough at the moment. Well, he's got a lot of momentum, but just doesn't have enough at the moment to go for the move for the time being. But next lap, possibly will happen.
And there you see, going through the S's section, hearing those beautiful turbocharged V6 engines. Surely the best passing opportunity for Jax has to be headed into turn 1.
Yeah, if he can get this good run out of here, the final corner, he will be just gone on him. Edu trying to hold on, but I think Jax may just have enough to go for the move here right now. He's got the DRS, he's using his ERS as well, and Jax should come through here up at a P3. He has to go around the outside instead. As side by side, these two will go. Edu looking to fight it hard, but he just can't. And Perondi will try to take the pickets here, pick up the bacon, and try to go for the move here on Edu as well. The 2 Williams drivers come through 3rd and 4th now, but Edu finds there's a little bit of contact, but Perondi P4 now, and Edu goes down to 5th.
Fantastic strategy by those Williams and excellent timing by Jax. He was able to use his DRS outside of the first few turns. Jax sitting 3rd, so now it's a United States and Aussie 1, 2, 3. Edu, the Mexican, being pushed back to the tail end of the top 5, and these tires getting a little more work, so it's going to affect that pit strategy through the stadium section now, Mitch. Does Perondi, knowing he's the faster driver, force his way around his Australian teammate, or does he, knowing that the championship is a lock, ride it out?
Well, he might just ride it out. It depends on if he does gain a lot of time on him. He could just sit behind Perondi here and just use him as DRS. But unless he gets close enough, that's the only time he'll go for the move. If he goes for the move, it will be on the front straight here. I don't see him trying to force it in any other part of the track. The safest parts you want to get the move done is turn 1.
Jared getting a 6-second penalty already. That's going to put him at a severe disadvantage. Obviously, no drivers have made stops so far. 2 drivers gaining 2 spots since lights out. That's Perondi sitting 4th, and B-Dunk now moves up 3 spots as he takes 8th away from number 1 FinFan. 1 second, now the gap between Chandler Seta and Jared. Seta's lead dwindling despite the fact that Jared has a 6-second admonishment.
I think Jared's just trying to push as much as he can. I mean, he's got nothing to lose. He's not in a championship fight. He only just joined in Japan, so we'll try to see if he can pressure Chandler into a mistake. That's pretty much, I think, what Jared's trying to do.
30 laps now to go. Fans, if you've just joined us, thank you so very, very much. You've missed quite a lot of lap action, a lot of lead changes, and so much more to come with pit stops for our soft tire drivers. About 6 laps away. Jared on those softs, really squeezing the issue. Mitch, what do you see?
Well, Perondi's through on Jax. He's actually locked up and gone deep, and Perondi now lifts up to the P3. I did say the best part of the track for Perondi to possibly get the move on his teammate was the front straight, as now Jared is right on the back of Chandler now.
0.3 of a second is all the gap that remains out of that lake section, headed through the S's. The Red Bull really squeezing the pressure. You can see FinFan and Saxman now trading spots. Now there's Jared and Chandler Seta.
Jared's...
Go ahead.
Jared's just had a big moment at coming into the S's, and he almost lost it, but luckily for him, he's still in DRS range. But that just shows you how much Jared is pushing to try to make the move on the Renault driver.
The American FinFan in the Haas, he's been sent all the way to the back. Saxman rounding out that top 10, cutting it wide into the stadium section. The Brazilian, Bruno Will, now applying the pressure to B-Dunk, who's 6.5 seconds back of PSR Fern, who's got 6 seconds worth of penalties. Despite that, still opens the DRS on the Papaya McLaren driver of Alan. The Mexican Edu just ahead in 5th. It's the Aussie Jax, who's just 0.6 behind the season champion Perondi. And Jared back behind Chandler Seta. Fewer than 0.5 of a second is now the gap headed through the lake section.
Oh, and Bruno Will and B-Dunk are going side by side at the moment. They got very close into turn 3, and they're still side by side. These two are just absolutely going for it, because these two on the alternate strategy at the moment, but them battling is just costing them even more. As B-Dunk looks for the crisscross, can he get this move done on Bruno Will? He's going to have to hold back, because you don't want to go side by side for the S's, as that is Jared around.
Jared did go around. We just left him for a moment, and he's crashed, it looks like. No, he's into that stadium section, trying to inspect his car for any damage. It looks like he is... No, he could be missing a piece of that front wing, but it's a dark car. It's hard to tell. He's lost the back end again, trying to hold on to it. A 3-second time penalty for Jared. He's lost something on the car. It's broken, Mitch. It looks like he's trying to come down pit road, and he spins it. The Red Bull, he's lost the Red Bull, headed into pit road, and he comes in flying. So now, with what appears to be no downforce or a puncture on the Red Bull, he must now complete another circuit here in Mexico. Moose says it's a puncture, and it indeed does look like a puncture. And you can hear it now just in top gear, and Jared's race effectively ruined. Ham Newton saying, I've never seen that, and I've never seen this, Mitch. It will be quite the achievement if Jared can nurse this Red Bull back to the pits.
I'm just very questioning what's happened there. He's just sliding all over the place, trying to hold on to it. And, yes, I see it now. Yeah, okay, I do see it now. So, yeah, Jared's just going to have to try to get back into the pit lane. And, boy, that's a shame for him. Down in P11 right now, lap 9 of 36, and Chandler now will get away. So, wow.
Jared racking up the time penalties. You can see the frustration in his driving etiquette. Let's see if he hangs on to the car this time. Just foot through the floor in top gear with that puncture. And I almost don't even want to bring up the detail in his penalties, but you can see 15 seconds worth of penalties and drivers coming down the pits now. Unless someone else... it doesn't appear anyone else has gone. Chandler Seta has gone in the pits. So much going on, Mitch. I'm looking all over the place trying to find some action. Jared now safely does make it in these pits. And a new leader is going to be Perondi as Jared retires from the session. Perondi struggling to hold on to the race car. Mitch, so much happening with these drivers not able to control these hot rods. 10.5 laps now underway. Edu in the second position. The leader Perondi now gaining some time Mitch, is there any reason, any correlation for the drivers being so uncontrolled on these soft Pirellis? Try and get you back here as soon as we can, Mitch. Pirandi still leading by 3 seconds through the baseball stadium section. PSR Fern gets another penalty. The Brazilian Bruno Will now gets into the 3rd position. He's got B-Dunk hot on his tail, 9/10 of a second behind him through that stadium section. Zach DeBeast says, looks like hot tires. Punctures don't slowly slide. We'll have to ask him at the end exactly what happened, but Bruno Will, now your new leader with Edu and Pirandi coming down pit road for tires. That leaves Saxman now in the 2nd position, and if we take a look at the stops, we can see all but the top 4 have come down for tires. DRC Jared says that's what happens when you put the wrong setup on. Jared, an unbelievable shame. That is how your race ends, my friend. Do feel free to stay in the chat with us. Mitch, 11 laps, almost a third into this race. Go ahead.
So the big story now is Chandler's going to have to go through traffic, that being the top 4. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if that hurts him or not. So he has to get past his top 4 drivers, who will be going for probably another 5 laps till they pit for a set of soft tyres. So Chandler now's going to have to manage his way through this traffic and don't hurt himself with the 2 Williams behind him.
Jared says he doesn't care till next season, so he's just laughing it off, and it's a good attitude to have. Number 1 FinFan with a full lock into the baseball section, and here's Chandler Seta filling his side pod mirrors, now coming down the straight. Surely this time, Mitch, Chandler will have him.
Yeah, he'll have DRS, ERS. He's not even going to use his ERS. He's got enough momentum with the DRS anyway, and he goes through on FinFan up in a P4 now. So he's only got 3 cars ahead of him to deal with, does Chandler, so we'll see how he goes.
Huge lock into turn number 1. That leaves B-Dunk, who you can see has 10 laps more wear on those tires. Saxman now next on his list. Saxman sitting 2nd, and these drivers really not shy of putting Pirelli puffs of smoke into that Mexican sky. Saxman, how is he going to defend B-Dunk on these wearing tires?
Well, I think B-Dunk is just struggling at the moment. B-Dunk was the lead of these medium runners that started off, and he's just losing a lot of time. I can tell you from experience, it's not nice to start on the mediums with heavy if you've got fuel on board. So B-Dunk's struggling at the moment, but he's trying to stay with Saxman as much as he possibly can.
Mitch, you can see that the gap between Chandler and Pirandi well over 5 seconds. Moo asking what's the gap between them, and some action up ahead.
And Jack's now coming through on FinFan. Pirandi now trying to go through on FinFan as well. So the Williams drivers now trying to make as much time as they possibly can up ahead. But Chandler now's got B-Dunk next to deal with, and then it'll be Bruno Will. So but Chandler's just got to be patient here at the moment, and then he can get through. He should get it done pretty easily. But yeah, so the 2 Williams drivers through as well. So now the 2 Williams drivers have clean air to try to catch up to Chandler.
Bruno Will, B-Dunk, Chandler Seta, your top 3 about to complete their 13th lap, their 12th lap of this event. Chandler Seta should have B-Dunk this time around on board with the Renault pilot.
Yeah, he should get this move done, and he will not use his ERS. He's actually got 3% ERS, as a matter of fact. But Chandler will come through on B-Dunk now up in the P2, and now all he's got left to deal with is Bruno Will for position number 1. Expect these medium runners to be in very shortly for their first set of soft tyres since they'll be on medium, soft, soft, and Chandler, of course, will be going soft, medium, soft.
Bruno Will leading by just 2 seconds, but of course that lead dwindling by tenths every lap. Number one FinFan still with 13 laps of wear on his mediums. He's been out for a bit too long, but certainly trying to follow his engineered strategy.
Oh.
Bruno Will coming into this race 4th in points, Mitch.
As behind 6, Alarm goes through on FinFan. FinFan actually goes off circuit and is going to lose a bunch of positions here at the moment with this train of Alan, Fern, and Edu. But yeah, Bruno Will in position number 1 right now and 4th in the championship, looking to maintain that 4th in the championship right now, the McLaren driver, and he's actually in.
That will give the lead to Chandler Seta 15 laps into this race. SHZ Jax gets back into the 2nd position with his Williams teammate Pirandi right behind him. These two Williams drivers well over 3 seconds behind the leader. Alan now in 4th. The Mexican pilot Fern rounding out your top 5.
And Fern and Alan look like they're going to have a... every time I look up past them, Rick, these two are like clinged onto each other, and Edu behind as well. So it's a great battle between Alan and Fern right now. They just won't stay off each other, and I think they'll try to see who can get that 4th position.
Just 3/10 the gap between Fern and Alan going through the lake section. This is where Fern needs to maintain these mediums, Mitch, because effectively they're looking to go the distance on these tires. If they run them too hard, they'll have to go to softs at the end.
Yeah, they'll be going to softs at the end, absolutely. I'd say, Rick, you're going to see them in lap 24, 25, maybe lap 23 for a set of soft tyres. You could try softs to mediums if you wanted to, but it would be a massive stretch since tyres here at Mexico wear out pretty badly. So expect that as Formula now is, Jax in P2 right now is about to be passed by his teammate once again on the front straight. It's like deja vu from about 10 or so laps ago, and now Pirandi moves himself up into 2nd place.
Pirandi now in the 2nd position. He's got 2nd from his Williams teammate, and surely that's going to be good night for Jax unless the Aussie can muster a bit of courage and get back up to his champion teammate. But further back, Alan, Fern, and Edu now all within half a second of each other, fighting for that 4th spot. Big lockup into the lake section.
Yeah, Fern's trying to really close in on Alan at the moment. As I said before, qualifying, your best opportunity if you can't get turn 1 is turn 4. And that's what Fern's trying to look for at the moment. So this is a battle that could rage on right till the end of this race, or rage really until the next pit stop.
20 laps to go for these drivers, this time by Chandler Seta, Pirandi, and Jax, your top 3 now side by side into the baseball section for these cars. There is the McLaren ahead of the Alfa Romeo, and the Red Bull sitting right behind him in that 6th position. The yellow flag out in sector 2 with Chandler Seta still leading. FinFan now up to 7th, but still 15 laps on those tires.
Yeah, well, Saxman, who had a bit of a spin in the AlphaTauri, had a big spin through the S section. He does have damage, does the AlphaTauri driver, so he will have to come in to the lane, which FinFan finally does on those medium tyres, and he's actually got damage somewhere, as now Edu and Fern going at it. Fern now trying to hold off Edu for P5 as Saxman speeds in the pit lane, and I probably suspect maybe a retirement in the pits, and there you go.
Bruno Will sitting 7th, B-Dunk 8th, FinFan 9th after Saxman retires, so then these drivers guaranteed to score points here. FinFan 22 seconds off the mark, but despite those penalties, it would serve him to go the distance in the 2nd half of this event. Will start the halfway lap next time by Pirandi. Now the onus is on him. No more pressure on the World Championship. As the great Ayrton Senna would put it, nothing but pure driving is on his plate for the 2nd half of this event.
And you never know if he can try to bridge the gap a little bit. He could bridge the gap, especially if Chandler maybe got a penalty in the end. But Chandler's with no one at the moment, so I think that might be highly impossible. But yeah, it's still a long way to go. There's still a chance of a safety car. You never know, and that could bunch things up. That's why FinFan has to stay out, not retire in the pit lane, because he could still get back into this pack.
7, 6, and 7 laps of wear for your top three. Alan sitting fourth right now. He still has the Alfa Romeo of Fern right up his trumpet with the DRS open, but Fern just constantly unable to close that gap, Mitch. What can the Alfa Romeo driver do to increase his chances of making an overtake?
We got close to it there slightly. Look, the big pressure for him right now is he's got Edu behind as well. So he's got one eye up ahead and one eye behind him, trying to see if he can just claw this gap down on him, which through here, if he can claw this margin down a bit, get a good run through the last sector on Alan, he can set it up for turn one and go for the move.
Through that stadium section, that gorgeous winding S tarmac that they have woven through this infield. Back on to the front straight. The Alfa Romeo of PSR Fern will open his DRS and bring on the attack to Alan, but you can see the gap is just too great headed into turn number one. It almost looks like Fern could do it. There's Alan moving to the outside. Now Fern gets around him. What a pass. Goodness, I lost my words there for a moment, but just a gorgeous textbook overtake. Fern into the fourth position. Alan fifth. Edu sitting sixth.
And here comes Edu on Alan, trying to look for around the outside. Close between these two. Luckily, no contact, but Edu's still fighting for it. He slides, can't hold on to it. And Alan manages P5 for right now, but third now is going to be the next sitting duck if he can't get away.
Great chase from these three drivers. Edu now giving Alan trouble, just 3/10 behind him, while Fern starts to pull away and opens up a gap to the tune of 1+ seconds over Alan in that fifth position, Mitch.
Yeah, wow. A second now is gone, and Alan maybe struggling on these medium tyres. So Edu now the next to possibly pass Alan here for P5.
Alan sitting fifth, and drivers, again, Mitch, we said some of these drivers are going to be looking to go back on softs towards the end of this lap here, because another 17 laps for these drivers on mediums would be just entirely far too much. 16 to go next time by, and you reckon that these drivers will be able to go about another 5 to 6, possibly a 7th lap on these increasingly wearing mediums.
They could probably go as long as they could, but to get the right advantage they want on these soft tyres, you're going to see them probably in the next 3 or 4, 5 laps time. It's going to depend who wants to pit first. So Edu's still trying to hold to Alan. Alan's still under a second of third, so it's not really over for fourth at the moment. Since don't forget as well as that third does have 9 seconds. Well, that make that 12 seconds worth of penalties now for PSR third. But still, these drivers want to battle out on track, and that's what Fern's trying to hold on and see if we get 12 seconds ahead of Alan.
Racing for pride now in these final races of the season. Next week will be the season finale from Brazil. The Brazilian driver Pirandi already with the title sealed up, but another Brazilian still with a lot of pride to race for. Talking about Bruno Will in 7th. He comes into this race just 11 points back of Chandler Seta, but at the rate Chandler Seta is racing, he may very well seal the top 3, if not gain a truckload of points up on Hoopalicious.
That's right, truckload of points on Hoopalicious, and that's going to be the big story heading into Brazil. But I'd like to point out here as well, Bruno Will is now catching this medium runners pack. Of course, Bruno Will on those soft tyres, so we could see now a 4-way fight for P4 in a matter of laps' time.
Pit stops for these drivers just 5 to 6 laps away. Fern, Alan, Edu, all within 1 second now through these winding, sweeping S's, headed into stadium. There's Alain in the McLaren chasing down Fern, who's gone around. Fern's gone around out of the S's section. Yellow flag undoubtedly out, and that's going to be the end of that battle for those three drivers. Fern on the mediums that he has to take another 5 laps just to meet the strategy. Luckily, he didn't hit anything, Mitch, but mistakes, and there's Fern again. Something must be broken on the Alpha, if not just hot tires.
Similar to Jared just before, basically similar to Jared, just slide it all around, can't hold on to it. And we may see him come in here and put a set of medium tyres on. And it's very, well, deja vu. Deja vu.
Same story again, where Jared sliding into pit road, and look at this, Fern just smashing the styrofoam bollards on the way into pit road, and Fern has retired from the session. That leaves 8 drivers in this race now. And Mitch, again, just deja vu. You said it exactly. The same way that Jared lost control, spun in almost backwards down pit road, the same thing happens to the Alfa Romeo pilot in Fern. And Dark Ice Racer says he's doing that on purpose, potentially losing the car, and we'll look into that. But now with 15 laps remaining in this race, it's become a Renault-Williams top 3.
Yeah, and Pironi, so penalty. So I was going to put it out is that Chandler actually has 2 warnings. And Pironi, I think, just pushed a bit too much. Now Pironi has the penalty. So the story of if Chandler had a penalty is not really going to be a factor now. But Jack now could be looking at a P2 here. Oh,
Pironi's gone. The champion's gone, and that's his race. It's going to be his first DNF of the season. The champion has binned it.
Wow, that's a big moment. We've seen that in the past before out of turn 3. Pironi out of the race. Doesn't have his championship, obviously, for obvious reasons. But, wow, VSC deployed. Not much is going to really happen here since everyone is in a different part of the circuit where the pit lane is.
VSC still on, and it looks like the Red Bull Edu trying to race the McLaren driver, but now VSC has been rescinded. Race is back on. 3.63 now the gap between Chandler Seta and Jax. There's Jax going through the stadium. There's Chandler leaving the stadium. Now, lucky number 13 laps remain in this Mexican Grand Prix. What an event so far, Mitch. We start with 11. We're down to 7 with 4 drivers effectively crashing out of this race.
Well, I'll tell you this right now, it's not over here for P3 on track because there is penalties, but it's not over here for P3 on track right now because Bruno Will's catching up to Edu and Alain, who Edu now is going to try to see if he can make the move here on Alain for position. Round the outside, can he get it done? And the McLaren still trying to hold on to it here. Edu's just, oh, he could get it done. He does. Edu up in a P3, but here comes Bruno Will to pass at his team, and he might get Edu as well. Looks for it, and Bruno Will moves himself up in a P3, goes a bit deep as well. And now Alain's going to find it back, which is going to make it a McLaren 3-4.
Just fantastic racing through the lake section. Edu with a bit of a bump on the McLaren headed into turns 5 and 6. That wicked double apex. These dangerous S's now headed through the baseball stadium after they leave the S's section. Hopefully no damage on the front of that Red Bull, as you see he did give a bit of a tag to the McLaren up ahead. Renault, Williams, McLaren, your top 3 with the Brazilian Bruno Will poised to get his 4th podium of the season. If he can hang on to 3rd, it will be 10 laps to go. Next time by, Bruno Will is in. Here comes Bruno Will. Is it potential damage? He's only got 8 laps on these softs, Mitch. Is he going for mediums now?
No, be going on softs. Jax has come in as well on a set of soft tyres. You're going to see if he can maybe undercut Chandler as best as he possibly can. It's about 3 seconds the gap between him and Chandler. Yeah, Bruno Will now on a set of soft tyres. So he's trying to undercut, even though he's ahead of them, Alan and Edu, who are still not pitted as of yet. So Chandler's still out in front at the moment, and B-Dunk as well. So Bruno will be trying to push as much as he can to confirm that P3.
There you see the tire graphic to the right of the driver intervals. Fresh, soft tires for the Australian Jax and the Brazilian Bruno Will, sitting 5th and 6th respectively. Edu, Alan, Chandler, Seita, the only drivers with 10 plus laps of wear on their Pirellis. Edu sitting 3rd, just 6/10 behind Alan despite the penalties. Now these drivers have their duty in their own hands on when to change tires and how they can undercut.
As Chandler now comes into the lane for a set of soft tyres, so we'll see if Jax has gained a little bit of time on Chandler, possibly, as Alan and Edu in as well, and this will be for a set of soft tyres.
Undoubtedly, they'll be going to the red Pirellis. There go the red Pirellis on the Red Bull. There's Alan with fresh red Pirellis on his McLaren, and Alan's being held. And it looks like
Alan.
Possibly a glitch in the game. He was held for longer than what you'd expect, but he'll still leave pit road ahead of Edu. Bruno Will now into the 3rd position on these fresh softs, and Chandler Seita now just 0.4 of a second ahead of the Australian Jax on these red Pirellis, Mitch.
And Jack's got a time penalty just as Chandler comes out. That's a shame for him. Chandler has a slight moment. This is the only opportunity Jax has if he wants to possibly challenge Chandler here. He has to go for it here on the front straight. This is his only chance, because knowing Chandler's pace, he will pull away. So Jax is going to push to the absolute limits here to get it done. He's got DRS open. Couldn't he looking for it here? No, well, they actually go side by side. Jax goes a little bit wide into the baseball stadium, and Jax takes the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix, but he has a moment, and Chandler fights him back.
Oh, what an absolute moment. Scenes in Mexico City now coming through the final corner. Who will have the DRS advantage? Will it be the Australian? Will it be the American? Now through the front straight, you can see the rear wing is open on the Williams, headed into turn number 1 with 10 laps remaining in this race. Bruno Will goes purple for the race. Jack now the sole leader through the first few corners. Will he have the DRS again? He does. He will pull away from the American Chandler Seita. New leader, Jax.
And I'll tell you right now, you might see, folks, Jax is a penalty, but I can tell you from what I've seen, Chandler has 2 warnings. So if Chandler pushes here, he could be under pressure, but right now Chandler could just sit behind and just take it easy and bring it home without the penalty. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. In other stories as well, Bruno Will is massively ahead of Alan right now for P3, and Edu and Alan, these two just can't stay off each other, 4th and 5th right now, and so these two might have a battle as well.
Despite the 6-second penalty, these two within half a second of each other, as they have been all race long. And there you can see everybody on relatively fresh tires in this race. 28 laps now underway as SHZ Jax goes purple for the race yet again. A bit of a tortoise versus the hare scenario here, Mitch, where Chandler now must give chase. It's only a 3-second margin of error that Chandler can have to the Australian up ahead.
And especially when Chandler has 2 warnings, if he gets 1 more warning, it's equal between the 2 of them. So he's got to be careful as well. Doesn't want to push too hard, since right now he's in the golden position to win this race. But he would want to finish a P1 on track, so that's why he's going to push hardy.
Now the Renault right behind him, and these two will give great chase. These two are going to give fantastic racing going through these final 9 laps of competition. SHZ Jax, Chandler Seita, Bruno Will, Australia, United States, Brazil, your top 3 as Alan picks up a 3-second penalty now. Where does that leave these drivers in terms of where they will finish at the end? Bruno Will and Alan, the 2 McLarens, now on even footing. Edu, who's only 0.4 behind Alan, now just 1 penalty away from being on even footing with Alan as well. 8 laps remain in this Mexican Grand Prix.
0.4, Chandler's just staying in that DRS to Jax right now. He doesn't need to make the move as of yet, so he's just hunting behind Jax, waiting for him to make a big mistake, which there's still many laps to go where that could definitely happen.
Despite the small field, just action all over the place here tonight. Mitch, been a thrilling Grand Prix nonetheless. Jax now with mirrors full of Chandler Seta. Seta must be careful not to drive it too hard and earn himself a penalty, or worse, make a fatal mistake that has taken 4 of these drivers out of contention. Still shocked that Ferrandi just lost the corner out of that early section, Mitch.
He's struggling, it seems like, since he got that penalty, and he was just struggling through, which looks like is what Jax is struggling right now. Chandler, if he gets a good run through here, could definitely go for the DRS and go for the move on Jax, as B-Dunk behind in P6 gets a time penalty.
Chandler Seta will now be able to open up the DRS and bring the chase to the Williams drivers. 7 laps now remain in Mexico City. Seta won't be able to make the move into 1. Will he send it deep? He looks to the inside, but he does not have the room. Now, following the Williams, really trying to find every crevice, every window, every ounce of daylight he can muster behind the Williams. He opens up the DRS one more time. 9.5 seconds ahead of Bruno Will. You can see them weave left and right, slicing, dicing, and scything on the road. Chandler Seta is desperate to get to the front. Jamie Walker saying, "Go Jax," in the chat.
Yeah, Chandler's trying to see what he can possibly do here at the moment. He doesn't want to, as we've talked about before, he's got that in his mind. One warning, it's equal. So it's going to be a fascinating fight. To be honest, Jax wants Chandler to push here. He wants Chandler to push, because then they'll be both equal. And then he can now start to think, I'll have to defend, as Edu gets another penalty. That will hurt him to try to get P4.
Jax trying to play the role of John Surtees in 1966 when driving for Ferrari. He wanted to be the hare. He wanted the Fords to chase him, to ruin their chances, ruin their longevity. That's what Jax has going for him now. He wants to ruin that chance for Seta, but Seta forces away around the outside. Side by side, they touch again. Seta really forcing his way through. Jax holds on to that lead. Mitch, what a race we've got going on here. Seta now with the DRS clears the Australian into the lake section.
And now an important part of the track now for Chandler to try to pull away, as Edu's just getting many penalties behind. Chandler now needs to pull away in this middle sector for Jax to not get a run on him, because if he does, there will be lights. It's going to continue on. But at the moment, Chandler's just pulling away. He needs this perfect middle sector to really push away from him now. But if Jax could stay in that DRS and save that ERS as well, he could still have a chance to go for the move. So we'll keep an eye on it.
5 laps now remain in this Mexican Grand Prix. Chandler Seta, Jackson, Bruno Will, your top 3. United States, Australia, Brazil. Alan sits in 4th. Edu rounding out the top 5. He now has a 14-second penalty waiting for him at the end of the race, which means it will be B-Dunk who finishes in the top 5 if he can stay within 14 seconds of Edu, and number 1 FinFan bravely staying in this race, running 7th. Chandler Seta now, the onus is on him to stay mistake-free for the remaining 4.5 laps.
And he's getting away now, 0.6 the gap. Chandler getting away at the front, so doing superbly, looking to get 5 in a row and gets some very good points on Hoopalicious, which at the moment, the fast lap is actually Jax. It is not Chandler, so Chandler's don't get that extra point that he would have wanted.
Chandler Seta just 0.7 of a second ahead of Jax. Bruno Will 8 seconds adrift, but only 1 second ahead of Alan, and you can tell that his McLaren teammate is really pushing the envelope. He really is trying to get closer. Alan, the Mexican pilot, comes into this race after 3 consecutive DNSs. He is trying to chase down B-Dunk in points. He finds himself 61 points behind the 5th place driver, but still all for pride now in these final 4 laps.
I'd like to point out here as well is that Alan has got 3 seconds worth of penalties and Bruno will have 6. So the 2 McLaren drivers may just swap in these last 4 laps once the race ends because of penalties. So Alan could move up into the 3rd position here in this race. Jack's at the front, still within DRS. So it's not over yet. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Nothing is certain in this grand sport of auto racing. Chandler Seta leading a smoky Jax as he brings big plumes of smoke into the double apex. Now through the S's section that has taken so many drivers out this evening. Mitch, if Jax does have anything for Chandler Seta, where is going to be his passing opportunity?
Oh, it's got to be the front straight if he can, and he's got to maintain his ERS. He's using too much of it. He's got to start maybe saving up a little bit on the straights to try and get that good gap. But now 0.8 Chandler just pulling away. Looks like Jax may have just got a warning as well for a little bit of track limits. And Chandler now almost got that second gap that he wants over Jax, who still has that DRS to still keep him in the fight.
3 laps to go in this Mexican Grand Prix. Jamie Walker says, you did good, Jack. Gotta be happy if you get P2 in this race. Nothing is certain, Jamie. We've seen 4 drivers crash out of this race. Chandler Seta could be the 5th if he does not mind his racing etiquette and gives it just a bit too much coming out of the corners. It took out the champion. It could take out 3rd place in the points as well. To bring up those points, Chandler Seta chasing down Hoopalicious, who is not, I repeat, not in this race, so that 29-point gap between 3rd and 2nd respectively will dwindle to almost nothing going into the final round into Brazil. Still so very much to play for, coming to 2 laps to go in Mexico City.
And Jax gets another time penalty, so that pretty much ends the story for him, but he'll still try to fight to stay within the DRS in this one, but he's still going to get P2 because the 2 McLarens behind are closing up on each other here at the moment, and it could be a McLaren fight for P3 with 2 to go.
Shout out to Wildfire 317 for following here. Welcome to Breakout Racing League, Wildfire. Glad you could make it. Be sure to tune in next week for the season finale. But until then, now it's less than 2 laps to go, and these drivers separated by less than 1 second. Jax still within DRS range through these first couple of corners, and you can see the rear wing on the Williams open up. Chandler not out of trouble and still work to be done. Allen and Bruno Will separated by half a second, and you can see Allen opens up the DRS. Mitch, it's McLaren on McLaren headed into the double apex.
Yeah, Alan trying to close up here on Bruno Will for P3. He has him on track with penalties, but he might still try to pass him to be P3 on the circuit. As behind, it's actually B-Dunk who's come in to try to go for a fastest lap down in P6 at the moment. But yeah, I think Jax has had a moment as well because he's now 2.4 seconds to Chandler. So as we come up to the final lap now, Rick.
Chandler Seta crossing this line to start the final lap of competition in Mexico. What a night it's been for these pilots. Jax sitting in 2nd, Bruno Will sitting in 3rd, bringing up the penalties one final time. Unless catastrophe happens, it is Chandler Seta's race to lose here. Allen, only 3 seconds adrift on penalties to his McLaren teammate, so not really a big reason to push, but still, the racer in all of us wants to overtake the guy ahead. Mitch, so much action in this race with such a shortened field. Breakout Racing League never disappoints, and as we're about to close the penultimate round of the season, what are we looking forward to next week in Brazil?
I think Brazil, a lot of drivers love Brazil. It's always a tasty track. It can bring in weather as well, so that's going to be an exciting race in Brazil, especially if Hoop is here and Chandler. A good fight for 2nd in the championship that we'll definitely look forward to.
Big Boy Steven says, fam, it's late in England. Well, it absolutely is, as it's about to hit 5 in the morning, close to, as the red, white, and green confetti flies into the air out of the final corner, and Chandler Seta gets his 5th consecutive win in Breakout Racing League Formula One.
Jack's P2, and it looks like Alain's going to get P3 here because of Bruno Will's penalties. So the McLaren's 3 and 4. Not a bad performance from those drivers, and Ed Do crossed the line in P5 for a top 5 for Red Bull.
Fans, stay tight, don't go anywhere. We are going to try and get some interviews at the end of this race. Talk to our podium. Thanks for following Big Boy Stevens. Appreciate you so very much. Welcome to Breakout Racing League. He says it's 4:13 a.m. Over in dear old Blighty, and I have no idea what he's doing up, because in mere hour, well, let's say 8 hours from now, England versus Croatia plays for the third day of Euro competition. We'll keep our eyes on that. But for now, on the motor racing side of things, Chandler Seta gets his 5th straight win. Mitch, dominance we haven't seen since our season champion Pirandi won his 5th straight win in Canada.
And shout out to my T3 co-commentator Finn Fink getting the fastest lap in the end there, getting the extra point. But yeah, Chandler Seta, superb performance by him. Great performance. He had a bit of pressure from Jared and Jax as well, so he did have to work for it. It wasn't easy sailing for him, but got the job done 5 in a row. Could he make it 6 in a row next week? We'll have to wait and see.
Virtual confetti and champagne flying everywhere all along the podium. A thrilling end to this 16th round of the 6th season of Breakout Racing League Formula One. And wherever you are, whether it's 1 p.m. in Australia, whether it's 4:15 in the morning in England, or it's just before midnight on the east coast of the United States, thank you for joining us for this race. But we're not done yet, as you see our finishing order. Number 1 Finn fan getting the fastest lap of the race. Sit tight, we're going to have our podium interviews in just a moment. Now, with our podium interviews, we've got our race winner, Chandler Seta. Chan, what a thrilling drive. Great battles with you and the Australian Jax. You get your 5th consecutive win of the season. Dominance we literally have not seen in 10 weeks of driving. How, where has this surge come from?
I think it's just being more comfortable. I don't know what it is. We're 11 months into the game cycle, but I've been finally getting used to the game. This is the only league I do now. I don't practice a whole lot, but when I do, it's only for this league, and I can get comfortable with the track. This track, my only practice was 2 days ago. I did, I think, 15, 20 minutes of practice, and that's all I've ever done on this game at all. So I'm surprised at the pace I did have. But yeah, it's just this is the only league I got to focus on right now, and so that's really helping me out.
Next week, next Saturday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States, you look to pip Hoopalicious for second place. It'll be a fight in the final round of the season. Will it be 6 wins in a row?
Now that's a tough one because Pirani will be racing, of course, and Brazil, that's his home track, and he is really good there. You saw his pace today. That was no practice. Of course, he did end up crashing out, but his pace at times, for actually most of the race, once he had clean air, was stronger than mine, I think. And he had no practice as well. So once you take him to Brazil, he is going to be really fast. So that's going to be a really tough race, but who knows, anything can happen. If I keep the penalties clean like I have been the last few weeks, then maybe that could be the decider, but we'll just have to see.
Go celebrate. You've earned it, Chan, and we'll see you in 7 days' time in Brazil. Congratulations on your gold medal.
Thank you.
Mitch, another Breakout Racing League chapter in the books. 16 rounds down and just one more to go before we close out Season 6. I cannot wait for Brazil next week.
Yeah, Brazil's going to be so good next week. Can't wait for that, Rick, the final round of the championship. Looking forward to it. And just real quickly, Rick, just want to shout out next week as well, next Friday night for everybody watching. If you can make it Tier 3, there's 4 drivers that can win the championship in Tier 3 as well. Please join in. I'll be leading that commentary. It's going to be a hell of a race. But don't forget next week as well, Tier 1 Brazil, also going to be a great race. Pirani will try to look to win.
That's going to be next Friday night, June 11, for everyone on the Western Hemisphere. That's going to be Saturday, June 12 for you, Mitch, for everyone on the Eastern Hemisphere and on the Far East side of the planet. And then it's going to be Sunday, that following Sunday here, we're going to have, which is going to be June 21st, which will be that final round of the season. But until then, we cannot wait. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and we will see you all around the corner.